Using simple 3/4 inch plywood, I am building a shoe rack that will fit all of these shoes. I don't normally do these big builds that require 6 pages of free plans. However, this dream shoe holder includes space on the top, a stylish cubby, enough room for 36 shoes, and an adorable closet for your raincoats and umbrellas. Previously on Who's the Boss. I had built this shoe rack. It's here in our 4 by 6 tiny mudroom, and there's some things we need to upgrade. Like the amount of shoes it can hold. Shoes are literally everywhere. And each cubby literally holds 3 shoes. Why? And the last thing is, nobody sits here. I don't. It's awkward. I could sit 9 inches to the right. This build takes 1.5 sheets of plywood, your circular saw, and a pocket hole jig. No matter what you wish to build, the website called opticutter.com can help you plan your creation. Pick your material size and plug in your desired cuts with labels. It's free, and I like giving a shout out to stuff that's free. Like this. Don't quit your day job. This is my day job. I configured all of these plans in the depths of my noggin. Usually I cut a piece and then measure and figure out the next piece, and I cut that piece and I figure out the next piece. I never have plans, and I'm betting it all on red, baby. I'm gonna cut all of the pieces per the plan's instructions, drill all my pocket holes, and move right on to assembly. No second guessing. Let's pretend that your Festool track saw's in the shop and you're using Old Reliable. I have a straight board for cutting 8 foot and one of those locking fences for the 4 foot. To use either of these, you just need to decide which side of your blade you're going to cut on. And for 88% of you out there, if you're cutting on this side, it's going to be 1.5 inches. If you're cutting on this side, it's going to be 5 inches. So you just line up your fence, measure over 5 extra or deduct 5 extra inches from your cut. Same with the 1.5, and bada bing. So let's run the play from beginning to almost the end. I have the second sheet of plywood up here, so I'm starting on the second sheet of my plans because we've already made a gigantic error. There I was at the lumber store feeling ambitious, picked up that sheet of plywood so I could make the new, shoe rack for the honey, and then I came home, started making the plans, put them into the opticutter.com. Boom! I needed 2 sheets of plywood. So we go back to the lumber store. That's a 40-minute drive. There, plus back. Picked up a second sheet. We got her home, put it up against this sheet. Uh-oh. This one is birch, this one is maple. So this piece, it's gonna be fine. I'm gonna stain everything golden oak anyway, so it's gonna have this kind of a color. Let's hope. And sheet number 2 only calls for piece C, which is the very back of the top, which I'm not crazy about, and all of the tiny little pieces for the shoe racks that get carpeted anyway. Not a super big deal. Piece C calls for one that is 8 3/4 wide by 40.5 inches long. I'm not worried about the 40.5 inches long because I'm ripping the piece straight and then I'm going to cut that afterwards. So let's focus on the 8 3/4. With my saw, because I'm going to be on this side, right-handed, this is what's going to be cutting the piece. So when I set up my fence, I need to be 1.5 inches farther that direction. Couldn't have been a whole number for the demonstration. With a mark made at 8 3/4 inches, I need to go an extra 1.5 inches so that my fence lines up with the base of my saw. So I'm going to go 1 inch and an extra 1/2 inch to 10 1/4. With the 10 1/4 marking at each end, you're going to line up your tool guide or your board. The guides are just nice because they easily lock into place. I don't have to fidget with clamps. If you guys are using clamps, make sure you're putting them on like this, which is a little pain to tighten, but you put them like this. When you're running your saw through, you're gonna, I hit that. So, food for thought. And the last tip is that I use 4 sawhorses. These guys are going this direction, so that way when I make my cut, it supports not only my plywood, but also the piece I'm cutting off. And there you have it. 1 slice down, and I'm going to predict 27 more to go. Moving right along to technically the first piece of plywood that we should have cut. I'm not sure why they put K at the bottom. I cut all 3 of the H's, then I cut K because I don't want to have to try to fight and go around them or go to the other end of the board. Then I cut A and B, F, S, H, and D, and then the PB and J board. I found that just to be the easiest. As I was slicing and dicing up all these boards, I was also labeling them, just because most of these boards are very similar in size. I don't want to grab the wrong one and oopsie, it doesn't fit at the end or it's all wonky. No, thank you. With this build, I am using pocket holes, or Craig holes, but they're called pocket holes. And it's just a simple setup. If you guys have never used a Craig jig before or drilled a pocket hole, we're going to go over all that. If you wanted to dowel and hide your pieces or dado them, put them together, I don't know, do it. We're doing pocket holes because they're fun. This little beauty came with this guy here, and it's pretty simple setup. If you've never seen one, it's got 3 sizes, 1/2 inch, 3/4, 1.5. So we set it to our material thickness, 3/4 of an inch. This guy, where's he at? He also has a depth gauge. It depends on how far down you want to drill the pocket hole. You set this, and we're going to just drill out some holes. These are pretty easy. This guy also unclicks sometimes. I take that centerpiece out and I run them like this because when I'm cutting in the end of my board, I just line it up with the edge and then I cut this one. I don't ever do the outside. So with my board, I just set it on here. You'll see I clamp it. I'm going to drill here. I'm going to drill here. Gives me 2 nice pocket holes. Easy peasy breezy. We're going to do the hardest pocket hole one just to show you guys how to get everything lined up. I'm probably not going to actually drill all of them. I'll drill one, just not all. Here is board number C. And this little diagram shows you where to put all your pocket holes. It doesn't have measurements, but here we go. So being 40.5 inches long, piece C is the one that goes in the back of the top for like our little resting spot. And this one, 40.5, so 20.25 would be center. And you can just put one kind of somewhere else, even if you just want 6 inches in, that'd be fine. Just do 6 inches. It doesn't have to be the center from center, just so that they're the same, honestly. Pocket hole jig. See your little hole? I'm sure there's an easier way to do this, but this is how I do it. Boom. You're going to have to pick up one of these clamps. It doesn't come with one when you buy the kit. I want to make sure the tension on this is correct, because if it's too loose, when you go to screw in, it'll move. If it's too tight, it leaves these little impressions. Neither one of those is fun. 3/4, make sure it's set to the right one. Earlier it was set to a 1/2. And then I'm going to drill out the hole, which I think was this one. Gentle sanding, she's good to go. I think it's close enough to Halloween for a scary story. I was pushing a board through the table saw and I had to put extra pressure down because I could feel it lifting up. I'm just kidding, that's not the story. I was having a great time cutting all my pocket holes. Now my story's gonna sound dumb. And I looked over, I was like, all right, where's board E at? Okay, not here. And it's because it's not on the cut list. I just forgot to add it in. Typical. However, luckily, I decided not to cut out one extra SH because I'm going to have 2 boot spots because I want all of those to match from the second sheet of plywood. So I can cut it with the leftover piece from the first sheet of plywood. It makes sense to me. Whew! People. Ooh, doggy, starting to look like a cabinet. Here's a quick rundown of all of the pocket holes we have just screwed into the boards. Might help you with the aid of the visual. A and B do not get any pocket holes. Those are the tallest side pieces. Everything gets screwed into those. Board C, this is the back, the section that you will not actually see. It'll be flipped around in the finished project. I've got 2 On the shorter ends, I had centered one, and then 6 inches in from either side. If you want to add 2 instead, you could do that. Might work out. Board D, we're going to talk about board D like this. This is either PB or J. This is going to be board C. This is F, that is our door. This is going to represent board E. It actually fits on top of everything. And with D, the 9 1/4 gets 2 in the front, and the 8 3/4 tall gets 2 to go into C. And that's all hidden inside this closure in the cubby. Freaking E wasn't even in the plans. I put 2 in the ends, just how we do every other one. This guy, I put the Kreg jig up against my pocket hole that I just drilled, and that's how I found out where to put this one, just so they weren't super close. I think it looks all right. 2 of them in that. Board F is a door. It does not get any pocket holes. Nothing screws into it. It's going to be moving. 3 H's. They just get pocket holes on the shortest side. Again, set it up. Hole near the center for H. PB and J, they just get them in the shortest side. These are the top and bottom boards. Don't need anything else in those. Just 2 on each end. K is a door. It doesn't get any as well. These are just 10 inch by 10 inch. I figured out my pocket holes. They could go on this side or this. It seemed like this way they were closer to the same size than this way. So I wanted to keep them all more unison since H is going to go to either side of this. So I cut them right there. Allow me to explain this in song. Here's the thing, it's a small workbench. It's pretty cool if you're building small projects. Yeah. But this a big one. And by utilizing the leftover piece of plywood, I've just got a bigger space to work on. It's flat. I also cut all of my SH boards this way instead of cutting them long ways, because this sheet's easier for me to store than an 8-foot, 2-foot wide. 4-foot by 4-foot's a lot easier for me. Here we go. Who knows if any of this is right? I'm going to do my best. I have a co-pilot camera. Hello. I got A and I got B. Those are the 2 longest sides. And then grab board C. I actually found out I can sand off some of this color, so hopefully I can match it a little better. We'll find out. And this board is with the holes going like this, because this is the front where the shelf is at. This is going to be the back. And the holes need to face down so it can get screwed into PB or J, whichever one. I don't know how you make your sandwiches. If you haven't noticed, it's a sandwich joke the whole time. 1 1/4 Kreg screws, pocket hole screws. I like to just pre-pop them in there, because, you know, when I get ready to put it together, it's going to just, they're going to fall out, and then I don't have the screws and I'm holding a bunch of pieces. No. Screw in. Hey, can I get like a bigger workbench? Like maybe a 16-foot by 16-foot. So I'm going to put a little glue on there. Using actually Tight Bond 3 because I have gallons of it. Don't put a lot, just enough to put her on there. I don't even know with this pre-done plywood if I can even glue to it. I know this plywood I can because it's plywood. The other plywood, hard telling. Okay, very carefully lining up the piece. Don't fall down, don't fall down. You'll see with the pocket holes, it kind of squeezes it together and then it tightens. And that's when you stop screwing, because otherwise you're gonna just spin out the threads on the inside. It's not a good thing. And we're gonna repeat that same process for this side here. Now we're gonna reach for PB or J, whichever one you want to be the top. You're gonna see this piece quite often. And it just goes in here. Like a freaking glove. We're going to screw this guy to him. And then he's going to get screwed into the sides. I'm going to just glue the back. I'm not going to try to deal with gluing the sides. It's going to get messy. Just a little bit of glue. Make sure your holes are facing down towards the bigger part of the project, because that's the bottom. I'm not exactly sure how, because I got two hands. I got my belly, I guess. I like to just use a simple square. Make sure that he is exactly where I want him, right there. Repeat for the other side. Moving on to the H boards, these have the pocket holes on only one side of them. So if you're trying to put it into a corner, you might have those holes facing that corner, vice versa. Just think about how you're going to look at the project. Like mine is going to be stood up in the corner, and I would like the pocket holes to be on this side because you can't ever stand behind the door in that corner. This is also going to be our closet, so they will definitely face that direction. For the closet, this one I'm actually going to turn around to face the shoes. This one's fine. So facing the closet, facing the shoes, that's where my Craig holes are going to be. Again, this one is going to be my closet. You could put it on either side, doesn't matter. That's just the corner side, so that's where I want them at. This side is not, so what I'm going to do is just take a board SH. I'm going to pop them down in here, because that's what's going in here anyway, so I might as well just pop them in, make sure everything fits, looking pretty. Whee! And now I'm going to put just a little glue on him, push him back into place, screw him in. And I just make sure he is butted as tight as possible up against these other two boards. And repeat that for the last two. After cutting my 3 H pieces down to size, I noticed that my K was about an 1/8 inch less than what H was going to be. And I wanted it to fit very snug, so I cut these down as well, which gives me this little bit of a lip in the bottom once I put J up into place. J, pocket holes are facing the bottom. This is going to be on the ground, not a big deal. You're going to take those SH boards and you're just going to lay them down inside of here. Make sure, again, your holes are facing the direction that they're going to once you build the project. In case anything is off, that looks pretty good. And I'm going to throw just some real quick glue. And then we are going to sandwich these 3 together. To pop in piece J. Be careful when you glue these up, because if you start moving it around, you're going to see glue because it's smearing it everywhere. So just watch out for that. And then I'm going to screw spot H's into place, and then I'm going to screw J into place. As I screw board H into J, I just push it up against the SH board that's on the opposite side, screw it into place, and then I check the top with the square just to make sure everything's staying at 90 degrees. Then I screw that one in. And to screw board J into your A and B, you're just going to line up the cuts and kind of mash them together, put your screw in. Again, I have this lip because I cut H's shorter and I didn't accommodate A and B. I'll show you a cool way to get rid of that if you have a router. Otherwise, everything cut to the specifications in the plans, you won't have this lip. I had to cut a little extra off because I made an oopsie. Our next hurdle is that the pocket hole screw or inner is too big to fit inside my cubbies. So I won't be able to use this size to get my pocket holes in and done. And I just opt in for one of these. He happens to be a little bit smaller. This one is like the normal size you could buy. This guy's just a little bit taller. Buy a couple of these. They're a dream. They're nice. It gives me the perfect amount of space so I can still countersink without all of this running into any boards. It works like a dream. Otherwise, you could pick up one of these guys. They're like 30 bucks. Pop that in your impact, and then it allows you just to do the corner from the outside. They come in handy in a pinch. And I'm also going to skip the middle. You will see why in a minute. So I'm doing the piece closest to the closet and that side, the west side. I don't know what to call these pieces. Don't do the middle one for the shoes. I'm going to take my two 6-inch blocks, smack them in the bottom. I'm going to just evaluate because this piece is kind of rippy. This is going to be towards the back. I'm going to make my nice edge towards the front. Smack him down in the bottom. I'm going to be 100% in the way for this. No, not really, actually. So making sure it's pushed up against this board, I'm going to screw in the bottom. And I want to make sure that it's level with my other board. I don't want it down if the board's wonky. And there you have it, 1 of 16 done. It's really starting to look like that skyscraper shoe rack I envisioned. For the middle, we're going to do the same thing, but just start off a little different. I don't want my boards to line up perfectly with these boards. I don't like the look of it. And also where the pocket holes screw in, they're going to run into each other because I screwed all of them the same depth in. If you wanted to avoid this, you could offset it in a little farther, and then your screws aren't going to hit each other. Otherwise, what I'm going to do is take 2 additional pieces of scrap, 3/4 inches thick. Then put in my 6-inch boards. Then I'm going to put in my SH board, holes facing the correct direction. And it's going to get my board to be just directly underneath. The top of this board is in line with the bottom of this board. Just brings her down a little bit. I also like this look. I start this process at the top because it gives me maximum space to deal with my pocket holes underneath. And when I get to the bottom, I'd rather take the 3/4 of an inch possibly off of one of the boot racks than off of the top because 6 inches versus 12. I was also going to stain all of these interior pieces before I added in all these little shelves. Just a lot more to work around, but completely forgot. And after putting the top piece in at 6 3/4, you can ditch these little boards. Go right back to 6 inches the rest of the way down. Am I shouting? For the little cubby, 100% optional. You can leave it as this big open shelf. You could also trim all this 8 3/4 stuff off the top if you don't like it. I like it. Spot D, you're just going to line it up so that it fits. If you put it the wrong way, it's going to be too tall. Perfect. F, you're going to smack them in here just for a second. It's the door, but I want to make sure I have the clearance for the door to open and shut. And freaking E, holes, they're going to go to the back, and then it screws into the tops, which is the same size as F. He goes right there. Screw all those into place. Maybe a little glue. For the cubby's door, I'm going to center the pull knob, make it kind of look like it's a drawer. I don't like it over off to the side. I'm going to center it. I'm not putting in a drawer, mainly because of its size. It's such a small space. 1, drawer slides aren't, no, you're just going to have to build a box to put in there. And 2, it's going to take a lot of your drawer space away by building the drawer. So your cubby's going to be so much smaller. You want to build a drawer? Cool. Put an X in the dead center. Drill out the hole. I'm going to use these guys that are actually for the little TVs that I'm making, but we don't have gold in the house. We have satin nickel because we're fancy. We have the knob. Now we need the hinges to install hinges. The front is going to face me because that's the part that's going to hinge out to this front. I'm going to take this hinge. I'm going to open it up. I'm going to set it on the front. I'm going to go in 1 inch. I'm going to trace around this little cutout spot. Repeat that same process for this side, 1 inch in. And then you're going to chisel out no deeper than these being parallel, no deeper than that. Some hinges are a little different. So you're going to chisel out. I also just make a quick score line on the front just to cut the veneer away. To take care of my oopsie lip that's on the bottom, I first found out how thick it was and then I scored and cut the veneer just so it didn't tear out or blow out when I'm using the router. And speaking of router, just using a flush cut bit that has that bearing on the top or bottom, just whatever direction you're currently looking at it. Set your depth accordingly so that you're going to hit this board underneath. Just router it off. I make a few light passes just so I don't overload the router. It is a 1/4 inch shank. And just remove all that excess material. Repeat those same hinge steps for board K. I measured down 9 inches and then made the spot for my hinge to go. If you guys are painting your shoe rack, I would skip the veneer step. Just pick up some putty, fill in the little holes that you can see from, gaps in the wood and stuff when they make the plywood. If you are staining your project, veneer is the way to go. Now, it comes in different wood types. I had picked up a piece of birch, and this is birch veneer. And they make red oak. They have all the colors for you. Also comes in really wide sheets if you're trying to cover something. Veneer's pretty cool, and it's super easy to use. One thing I like to do is just take a simple squeezy clamp and clamp this down, because once I let go of it, it's going to untangle. It's going to become a giant mess. You're going to be picking all of it up and scooting your way down. The weight of it's going to move it. Ugh. So what I do with my veneer is, one, definitely run the same direction that your boards run. So this long piece, I'm going to do it until the end of that long piece. I'm going to do this one. I'm going to do this board. Then I'm going to do this board afterwards in the center, because that's where this board is. I do not run it like this. So it's from this edge to this edge, and then I cut a smaller piece for the bottom because it looks unnatural, because that's not how this board is attached to the project. I run the longest pieces and work my way down to the shortest pieces. Just find it easier. It's a smaller piece to manage. I don't try to cut this one in and then mash the next one up to it. This veneer is also 7/8 of an inch thick, while our boards are 3/4 of an inch thick. You will have to trim off even if you buy the 3/4 veneer. I like this veneer because it does give me a little bit more working space and ability to cut and splice in different spots. I leave it super long. I leave a good maybe 1/4 inch hanging off the edge of my project. Center it best that I can. Hold it down. Get your wife's iron. You're going to heat up the veneer. It's going to activate that glue underneath. You're going to keep working your way down. You need to be cautious that it's not curling off of your board, so you do want to keep it on. And when that glue is heated up, you can smash it over if you need to. So I'm going to finish this piece here. Be right back. We're going to give that just a second to harden up and cool down. The two ways you could go about removing this veneer is to just use a random razor blade, or they do make this veneer cutter if you wanted to fancy one of those. And all you're going to do is just hold it flat to the project. I still kind of do a saw motion, just like this. Pushing it flat up against this board, and it looks like it's always had a finished edge on it. I'm going to repeat that for the rest of the long sides, and I'll show you how to do these ones in the center. I have finished all the veneer work except for this strip, so I can show you guys how to put a piece of veneer in between two others. It is pretty easy. You're going to grab your Green Giant toenails right here. I have pre-cut them with the corners at 90 degrees. If you're not at 90 degrees, you're going to see it in the first angle because you're butting it against another piece. And they're just about 1/4 of an inch too long. I'll show you why that is in a moment. You're going to grab a loose razor blade, just have him hanging out like we're in a Saw movie, and a little tiny adorable hammer, or bigger hammer, or maybe you just have strength. I don't know. And with 50 feet of veneer, this is all that I have left, so not a lot of room for oopsies. I'm going to butt it up against the edge, lay it down, take my iron, start it out. You want to be careful that when you drag the iron, it's not pulling your veneer piece away. That is a possibility. Make sure she stays straight and over the entire piece. Woo! She's warm. And I'm going to do all but Just a little smidge on that side. I don't want to iron the whole thing down because then it's going to iron the glue on top of your other veneer. There's that. With this, I just lay my razor blade down on this edge, lay this down, cut them over to here, take my hammer. The razor blade has gone in between the two boards. Just pull them out. Piece of veneer is cut off. This is perfectly aligned with the edge. Finish your veneer work. We are in the final stretch. Thank goodness. I could have knocked this out in like 2 hours, but because I wanted to make it into a video, it's taken me all week. I don't know how many hours are in this. So here is the question for you guys. I kind of know the answer because you are at the end of this 30-minute long tutorial. Do you like it when it has each step on how to build the project as we build the project, or do you want it to be like this? Here's an example. Action. Put the hinges and screw your doors into place and get them in line. See, this wasn't in the video, how to put the doors on. So now, are you guys like, well, how do I put a door on? You see, I don't know. I don't like skipping steps. I like giving you the walkthrough. It's a little bit more talky, a little less high action. So was every class I took in school, except for maybe driver's ed. None of them were like, woo, you know? That's my rant. Now, what the heck is this? This is just a piece of carpeting. However, it is automotive carpeting. You can still buy it at pretty much every big box store. You can also buy it online in smaller cuts if you wanted to. Comes in gray, comes in black, probably comes in every color. It is different than regular carpeting. And let's count up why. Reason 1, it is super cheap. It's 50 cents a square foot. It's just economically much cheaper than if you're getting regular carpeting. 2, it's a lot more flexible and bendy than actual carpeting. 3, it's a lot easier to clean than regular carpeting to a degree. You can take it outside, you can hose it off, you can throw it in your washing machine if you wanted to. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have this adhesive back, which is 4. It doesn't have this rough, hard back. 5, it looks a lot nicer if I'm using this inside my cubbies than this one because I don't see this white, gross line. There's all kinds of reasons. So what I'm going to do with this piece, I'm going to cut 10-inch by 10-inch squares to fit inside of my cubby holes. I just, with mud and dirt and you putting your shoes in and out, it might start scuffing these up. They might start looking a little rough. While the little pieces of carpet, if I wanted to replace one down the road, I'm going to have a couple extra. Also, again, easier to take them out, wash them, put them back. Done and done. Another tip is if you take your piece, it's not cut to size. This is a sample to show you guys gray. On the back, if you took some silicone, I have to buy some today. If you just squirt some silicone on here, and then you just take a board and just kind of rake it across so it smooths it out, let that dry, and then when you flip it over, it kind of makes it anti-skid so that when you put them in here, you put your shoes in here, it'll actually stop. It won't fly around. So I'm going to get 18 of these squares cut up, put into here. Here's some cool pictures of it done though. Look how fancy.